If you're a business owner or senior manager, you probably had more than enough about all the wonderful opportunities awaiting you in the era of digitalization.
Whether it is big data, cloud, data science, or whatever buzzword is currently trendy.
If you would like to hear someone dissecting these claims and showing you what it actually takes to improve business processes, you're in the right place.
This is Between Data and Risk, where we discuss real-life examples of what works and what doesn't in the world of business operations.
Hello, I'm your friendly neighborhood data guy, Dr. Marian Siwiak, and with me is my co-host, Artur. Welcome to Between Data and Risk. Today, we'll yet again take a look at AI, and we have with us Neil Lathia of Gradient Labs, who agreed to share some of his experiences with us. Hello, Neil.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you from me as well. Let's start with the discussion about AI. You have experience with AI in various different kind of areas. Most recently, you're involved in AI for financial institutions, which is very close to my particular area of expertise. So this is particularly interesting for me. Where do you actually? Let's start with the very general questions. What is the most important, the riskiest or the hardest part in even starting an enterprise like this, building an AI solution for a specific industry, highly regulated industry like finance?
Yeah, that's going right in with the hard questions. So by way of background, yes, I'm CTO co-founder of Gradient Labs. We're building AI agents for automating customer support in financial institutions. Previously, myself and my co-founders, we were working at Monzo Bank here in the UK, which is one of the largest neobanks, fintech banks in the country. So I believe 1 in 5 people in the UK now have an account with Monzo. So as you probably very well know, any kind of banking service has an element of risk, an element of regulation, but also an element of wanting to deliver an amazing customer outcome, customer experience. And usually risk and regulation end up trumping that customer experience and making it a little bit worse than a lot of banks hope for it to be. So when we set out to start Gradient Labs, we were coming off the back of working at Monzo I was there for 5.5 years, where we had seen a lot of the two sides of the coin of trying to build automations, systems that deliver an exceptional customer experience, but at the same time meet all of the demands and requirements of risk managers and regulators. So to probably answer your question. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a risk manager, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
I've been in my fair share of meetings with risk managers, but yeah, I suppose the hardest part in terms of building this today is that AI is still relatively new in a lot of these environments, and in some corners of banks, even using what is not the latest and greatest of AI is still a journey that needs to be taken. And sort of I'm thinking back to all these conversations that I've had with risk managers and regulators of how do you understand what these systems are doing? How do you make sure that they're being fair? How do you make sure that they can be audited and monitored in the right way? And all of these topics are actually very relevant to engineers and AI people more generally, because when you're building an AI system, you want to understand how well it works, you want to monitor it, you want to make sure that it does a good job. So really, the concerns of risk managers are not too far away from makers in this space.
What is harder? Building the technology that runs this AI or convincing people that it's safe or compliant enough?
Yeah, I sort of merge those two into one, right? Because right now what we do is we built this AI agent and we approach prospective companies who may want to work with us. And obviously their risk appetite is never going to be great, let's just turn it on. So there's a body of evidence that we need to build up for them, and we do that via our product. So companies can integrate with us and not go live, but understand deeply how well the AI agent would perform by either talking to the agent directly, by running simulations, by running batch evaluations. So we actually use our product to build the confidence back with the stakeholders themselves. And I think those two, in the world of today's AI, need to go hand in hand.
Involved in developing some of such systems and risk managing them. And I always have slightly mixed feelings about this, because on the one hand, I understand the concern. On the other hand, when I see actual agents in a bank dealing with customers, first of all, they're only human. They can get rattled, they can forget disclaimers, they can forget certain pieces of regulations in the heat of dealing with a very nervous customer. AI, once program, a deterministic program, once programmed, it will remember regulation, it will follow the regulation. It might not show certain traits of empathy or perceived fairness. So how to ask this exactly? How would you show to those stakeholders that there are actual benefits of having a very coldly reasoning algorithm, rather than a person who can, in the heat of the battle, the customer is crying, they have a problem, they get rattled, and suddenly everything goes wrong?
I will chime in. One thing that I think what Neil is doing from what you are describing, I think LLMs are far from deterministic. Unless you are using the temperature that actually calls them, but I'm not sure, I don't want to do corporate espionage and ask about details, but when I'm using LLMs, I give them some freedom, artistic license. So I think this is the problem. As long as the program is deterministic, it's a bit different situation, but here, this explainability of AI becomes an issue, because you can ask ChatGPT why he said what he said, but then again, how you can trust his answer? You can ask again, but with whom the buck stops.
Yeah. I guess it's useful to have a mental model of how we build these AI agents. So what we have done is, well, from what the customer sees, they're speaking to a system. And so it looks like a unified system that just returns responses to them, executes actions on their behalf, and so on. But in practice, under the hood, there's many different components that are all being developed separately. Some of them run in parallel, some of them run asynchronously, and some of them are very specifically built components of expertise that map into banking. So that just builds straight off of our experience. So as an example, in a bank, if a customer reaches out and is displaying signs of vulnerability or financial distress, then there's a regulatory and sort of even moral requirement to treat them in a slightly different way.
So I guess my audience will be also interested in learning, should I call and pretend to be in financial distress or not?
Well, if you do that, you'll probably end up getting flagged as a vulnerable customer, and that will have some material impact on your ability to do things within your accounts. But as a general rule of thumb, I would suggest don't lie to your bank. If a customer reaches out to a financial institution and they sound and have certain characteristics, they might need to be treated differently on the other side. And today, it's broadly the job of the human customer support agent to try and remember all of these things. So they not only need to carry a lot of information that might be changing and fast moving, but they also need to remember all these edge cases and that they need to treat them slightly differently and not miss out that there are certain signals of vulnerability or other things like that. And equally, they need to know that there are certain things that they can and cannot say back to customers to comply with regulation. So it's actually quite a difficult job. And a lot of AI agents are sort of off the shelf right now. They're agnostic to which domain they're built for. And so they fall prey to all of these basic mistakes. They will just try to answer every customer, regardless of how the customer has approached the conversation. They will not spot instances of doing things that they shouldn't be doing or saying things that they shouldn't be saying. So this is where the risk management angle really comes into play. And we've built our AI agent with specific components that are tailored for financial services that then risk teams can audit. And they have evaluated the internals of our AI agent to see how well it complies with, for example, detecting complaints or vulnerability and treating customers in a different way off the back of that.
Now I'm a bit torn because there are two important topics that I would like to talk about at the same time, but maybe we'll try to do it sequentially. One is, you mentioned how hard this job is, people need to be agile. I guess that's where your motto comes in, this agent with a superhuman agility. It's, this ability to adapt to quickly changing, I don't know, requirements or documentation or whatever. There is this other agility which I wrote and failed to found an agent for mental well-being. The topic that I was fascinated how well can some large language models mimic empathy, mimic engagement. There's a question if they mimic it or do they have it. But that's how do you perceive this quality of
Yeah.
LLMs in your line of work? Like you said, like they can say something that they shouldn't, or they, aren't you afraid that they will be too helpful? Because psychophancy is another, let's say, established fact, and there is a research showing that the bigger the model, the more pleasing it is to the user. How do you defend your users that yes, I will help you, yes, I will order, $1 million on your account if you need it? Have a nice day.
Yeah, there's certainly an element of constraining language models to prevent them from offering help for things that they cannot do. So it's kind of like the way we formulate it inside of Gradient Labs is like there's getting the basics right. And so not making false promises is part of the basics. And then getting the specifics right, which is all the things that are specific to financial services. Now, on the empathy front, what we found was that a lot of the AI agents that are out there, they try to go into solutionizing as quickly as possible. And so a customer says something, and a lot of the products out there that we reviewed are trying immediately to give you an answer, to almost throw an answer at you and see if it sticks. So I know that financial services and the medical domain might be quite distant from a practical perspective, but in the design of our AI agent, we took a very diagnostic approach that the AI agent should not try and offer any solution until it has properly understood your problem. And there's a strong element of basic things there, like disambiguation. So to take a financial services example, someone writes in and says, I have a problem with my account. And so immediately you know that the human representative would look, which accounts does this person have? Are you asking about your personal account or your joint account? But equally, you could see that immediately offering solutions, here's how you can resolve problems with your account, would be the wrong thing to do. So I think the empathy aspect, so I think the closest way that we measure that is customers will rate their interaction with the AI agent once the conversation is finished. And we found with several customers that we get an average score that is higher than their human agents. I think in part that's because our AI agent spends a good amount of time trying to understand and diagnose and triangulate the customer's problem before trying to resolve it. So it kind of it makes it appear like it's truly understanding.
ChatGPT has this model, I think it's all free. Also, when I was creating artificial sentience, I was very much focused on iterativity of operations. It was even before O3 was released. Is it the key to avoid, I don't know, over-eagerness? Because as you said at the beginning, most of the chatbots, you ask them the question and you get the stream of mind or stream of tokens that is flowing out of the machine. If you wait a minute and make it think about what you want to say. Are you sure that you want to say that? Are you sure it's in alignment with it helps from your experience, how efficient is it really?
Yeah, we have experimented with O3 as well. Actually, whenever a new model comes out, just like probably the rest of the world now, we jump in and run our evaluations and see what looks good and what looks bad. So our agent under the hood today is actually predominantly a mixture of Anthropic, OpenAI, and Gemini completions. So we're not even relying fully on a single model. And, like I said earlier, our entire agent, actually you break it down into multiple different components. We optimize them at the component level, even at this component will use this language model because it sort of has the perfect trifecta of quality, latency, and cost. So there is certainly an element of lots of completions happening under the hood all at once. I think what we found the most value is to try and make each of these components as specific as possible. And one of the ways that we've gone about trying to design that, which is very vague, is thinking when a human gets a task, what is the sequence of steps that they are taking in order to resolve it? And you'll come up with a list of things that human would do this and then do this and then do this. But then you go back onto that list and you think, what are the sequences of things that humans have assumed or that are implied? So at its most basic, humans will just take things for granted, like this message isn't clear, I need to clarify. Whereas LLMs might not even take that step if you jump them straight towards retrieval.
That's funny what you say, because when we were still with Artur working on process optimization, half of the work on process mapping was discovering these hidden assumptions. Okay, so now I do X, you could do Y. Why you don't do Y? Oh, yeah, in fact, because we, tried 15 years ago, we tried Y and it didn't work. Like, did anything change? I don't know, technology, environment. So it's, I understand the pain of discovering hidden assumptions. The thought that I have, like, okay, so we have this agent that is automating a lot of work that used to be very human because of the complexity, because of many different ways people can represent the same problem, right? Where are the limits? Like from your experience, when I guess you're not just one guy and LLM doing all of that. You still use humans for some work. Like, where are the current limits that you observe of application of agents, and in which areas do you think it will go forward, and which areas will require humans, at least for the foreseeable future, until ChatGPT 5 model?
Maybe. I think right now our AI agent is explicitly designed and instructed to release stuff that it's unsure about, because we're sort of navigating that space of a lot of AI agents, particularly in customer support, do this like best effort approach to try and boost their numbers. And that doesn't land well with the type of customers that we have. We'll try our best with this customer. It doesn't land well with risk managers. And so there's a certain limit there where right now we will release the work back to humans where things are too ambiguous, poorly documented, no procedures or lack of instrumentation. But actually, a lot of that process then speaks straight back into talking with those customers about what they could do in order to leverage their AI agent further. To say, out of the box, you get a 40-45% resolution rate. How could we work together to bring it to 80%? And there's a clear path forward there of like usually connecting the dots between a lot of systems, but where things right now currently remain probably beyond the scope of probably these models as well, particularly in banking, is where customers may be trying intentionally to deceive. And so I'm not talking about like basic prompt injection, but I'm thinking specifically of your bank reaching out to you, trying to ask you why you're moving some money, and there's a scammer on the other side telling you what to say back to your bank. So yeah, a lot of language models take what the customer says as the truth. Right now, I'd say deception is beyond, like navigating deception could be slightly beyond their abilities.
I was asking more from the inside of running your company, less about the limits of your tool, because this is a different thing. The motto of our podcast is what works and what doesn't in the world of business operations. Like, I guess you're uniquely qualified to say, okay, we run a business, right? Based on utilizing AI to its fullest potential. So in your everyday operations, where are the limits? Why don't you do everything with AI? Or what are you planning to do with AI, and what are you not planning to do?
Yeah, you mean even inside of Gradient Labs?
Yeah.
We actually do, well, I'd say across my engineering team, there's different views on to what extent they use AI to build the AI system. There's a lot of it going on right now, I'd say. But probably if I had to point to two or three things, one, a lot of our engineers spend a good chunk of their time diagnosing where things went wrong and trying to fix them without hurting something elsewhere. That's a difficult and human level problem still. And then on the business side, I still think that today most sales land through relationships. So we're not quite at, we'll still go out ourselves and pitch to prospects and and close the loop that way. But it's still on the other side, there are humans that we need to convince that this AI agent is the right tool for them.
I guess if you will be able to design AI that will do sales, you will not have to do anything else in life.
I am sure I'm in receipt of like a lot of automated sales emails, and they just go right in the bin for me right now. So there's something not quite right about them just yet. But yeah, I'm sure there's a great future for AI in marketing right now.
On the other hand, I receive them also, as well, and you can see that. But I think that the problem with sales is volume. Either you have really good connections and you can tell someone, listen, I have this, do you need it? Yes, no, thank you. On the other hand, if you don't have these connections, it's about the volume, because if it solves the problem, if you are, I don't know, if you miss the shoes and you get the email, we have shoes, it can be broken English, and you will still be interested maybe, because maybe you need the shoes, not buying a literature from them. It's an interesting, because I wonder how it will impact the volume of the spam, because
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think right now, our best connections out to other companies have come from our current customers. I think in the world of AI right now, that is super important, just because AI agents are still a relatively new thing. A lot of companies are investing their time and people to try and build it themselves. And also, there have been many failure stories that escalate very quickly to headlines in newspapers. And so there's a sort of reluctance or fear to overcome there. I don't want to be that company that ends up in the headlines. There's some other headlines of companies, with very bullish narratives. We're going to get rid of all of our humans and just adopt AI. So there's a lot of noise in this space right now.
Was it Klarna? Was it Klarna that recently is coming back to human employees after a brief stint of let's be full AI company?
Yeah, I wish I knew the specific details of how that decision got turned around, but it feels like
I need to invite someone from that, maybe, because it really caught my attention. With Artur, we wrote a book about using AI for boosting data analytics, published by Marian. A lot of changed in the AI, but I think that philosophy that we developed there, that AI is best used by people rather than left, to roam wild, still holds. Even if you iterate, like you said, your engineers, you need engineers to, the word that I feel is fitting here is architecture. To think about the architecture of the solution, where changing one thing here may have significant ramifications, 2-3 functions deeper.
Yeah.
This is how I code. I observe this happy changes that downstream end up badly.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's changing though on that front, and we're factoring it into our design as well, is that in the near future, our AI agent will sell its services to a company, and that company may have other AI agents within its ecosystem, whether further into its back office or not, or agents doing other tasks. So it's already actually come up with a few customers about how other AI agents that they are either building or designing could interact with ours. So the multi-agent future is imminent, and I think that is going to be interesting. Well, it's going to expose an interesting set of failure modes as well, specifically. Within one AI agent, it's challenging to, well, it's possible, and we work really hard on it to avoid it like cascading its failures all the way through to a reply to a customer. But, just sort of thinking out loud now, if our agent was told to do something by a different agent incorrectly, then there's a whole new world out there for us to learn about and discover.
Risk management areas, because then you need to have dedicated agents, managing agents, and second line agents to oversee this first line agents. I wonder when the cost of maintaining the system will be higher than just getting people to do it. I wonder where is the breaking point when this interconnectedness of agents will become unsustainable from operational. But
I think, well, we've one thing we've been very opinionated about is that a lot of AI systems out there today are developed as a co-pilot model. And in practice, yes, it's like you get AI, but you still have the operational overhead, you still have the humans and stuff like that. I just fundamentally think that's kind of the wrong model. The future has less operational overhead because it's a smaller team of people who are overseeing AI agents and instructing them and course correcting them or empowering them to do the right thing. So the humans are managing the AI agents, so to speak, and it's not just being in receipt of their nudges. So yeah, I think the world doesn't even have enough software in it just yet. So I think we'd be a long way off from people abandoning AI agents in favor of returning to humans. But having said that, maybe there's a
We
world
should
where
talk to
it's just,
Klarna about it.
yeah, we should actually. I think there's maybe there will continue to be space for it maybe in like the top most premium domains where having a completely human white glove service is the thing that you're buying.
I think another hot topic right now is Microsoft laying people off by thousands, and
Oh,
I think they plan to lay off 10,000 people and mainly managers. So I think they are realized that managers are, especially in AI age, are low value added proposition.
I'd say it's a good time for all those managers to start AI companies then.
I think they do.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think they
yeah, yeah,
I think they do, but consider it a fair warning because it
yeah.
seems like at least some of them will try to their strength and in the financial world. However, I must say I am very impressed with what you do. As I said, I played with AI for well-being, for data analytics. The finances, it takes serious guts to take the risk. I'm seriously impressed.
One of the things that we, I think, benefit from is having a smaller team than, like you said, in a mega corporation like Microsoft. They have many layers and many thousands of people. There's just a communication overhead that comes naturally from having teams of hundreds. So we're currently a growing team. We're hiring more, but definitely nowhere close to hundreds of people. And then the second thing that we've seen as
I've
part
heard
of
about
that,
10,000,
yeah,
which
yeah.
you can that you can
Yeah,
have.
well, they should come and look us up for sure. And I think one of the things that is definitely changing is with building AI systems, is that when we were previously at other companies building more traditional systems, there's kind of the mold of what those teams should look like, right? You have your backend engineer, your front end or mobile engineer, you have the designer, the product
Scrum
manager.
Master.
Yeah, exactly, right? So there's kind of a picture that of this is how these systems are built. AI systems right now kind of collapse it all a little bit together. So as an example, the designer, our founding designer, Michelle, she joined one of our meetings recently where she thought it was going to be a very technically oriented meeting around how we run large scale evaluations. But in practice, it was a very like user experience oriented meeting because how do we surface all of these insights to our customers and help them to make sense of them and stuff like that. That was a key thing that she said was right now, what was previously maybe two teams, one team doing the machine learning and the modeling and another team using those
UX.
decisions to impart some experience. Those two things are now collapsing together for sure.
This is something that I also observed when you start working with large language models. They feed you with so many perspectives. I personally love it because I'm writing some machine learning algorithm for a client, and all of the sudden I get these questions like, did you think about this or that, but impacts actually the user experience at the end. I'm not the type of the guy that would just ignore it. I start asking questions. I start working much closer with the UX team, with the front end, because I love numbers and I think in terms of tables or graphs actually. And here these graphs explode to this user needs. It's amazing. Do you have anything that you would like to share with us, like the pearls of wisdom you would like to drop
Oh
to our
gosh.
audience?
I think I can restate some of. I had posted this online, and I think this is the story that led to me being invited into this podcast, which is that right now we still do hire some people whose job it is to work specifically with the language models and prompt engineering and building these little components. But the way I talk to people inside of the company at Gradient Labs is that now everybody has a job in AI. And that's kind of the biggest shift that is happening compared to before. And that's what I mean by like everything collapsing together. That before, when I was starting out my career, machine learning was like a very like exclusive thing, and there were certain people who knew how to do it. And yeah, over the years,
I miss this time.
I don't actually, right? I think, so like it was, it was a very small set of people who would do these things. Over time, it's been democratized a lot, but it was still a thing, right? Doing machine learning. Now, AI and building AI systems, it's everything. It revolves around the AI. So when our backend engineers are working, they're working on enabling our AI to run well and efficiently, and also design the different workflows that it needs to complete. When our product engineers are working, they're working on AI and helping customers understand and audit and monitor the AI. When our designer is working, she's working on AI and helping how to design these user experiences around AI. So basically, there's no escaping it now. Before, it was the one machine learning team and the entire organization around it. But really now, everyone can have a career in AI, even though they might be product managers, designers, backend engineers, and so forth. There's just a world waiting to be built here.
All right. If somebody would like to talk to you, maybe, get themselves financial chatbot, sorry for brutalizing the agent, where they should reach out?
Yeah.
We will add a link in the description.
So it's gradient-labs.ai. But I'm sure if you look up Gradient Labs, hopefully we land somewhere near the top of your favorite search engine. Otherwise, if you look up my name, Neil Lathia, you'll find my personal website, which will link you into all the right places.
Thanks a lot, Neil. And as we always say, let's hope it was of use to someone.